Hi, this is AP Psychology. I'm Mrs. Roberts. We're doing 10.4 and 10.5 today. Number one, blank, like B.F. Skinner, view humans as reactors to external events. To them, personality is to be explained from the outside in. All right, so we're trying to figure out which of these match with someone who we hopefully kind of recognize already, B.F. Skinner, and something about reacting to external events. So far we know that trait theorists is what we studied about last class, and the class before that, psychoanalysts. This doesn't look like either of those two things, so that narrows it down here. We also looked at the humanist perspective last time with Whitman. So that kind of all we've got for today, or we know that our target is all about learning about what behaviorists and cognitive theorists think. So now we have to remember who is B.F. Skinner. And so hopefully you remember him as the guy who did a bunch of like the Skinner's box. So he was all about behavior. So the right answer here for number one is B. Behaviorists. Might point out to you also from your textbook, what are his views? Behaviorists emphasize environmental causes and view humans as reactors to external events. So this is pretty important. Probably most important is you remember some other people from our other units. So from last semester, people like Pavlov and Watson, and that they're really more interested in identifying individual differences, and they're not really about finding out what your internal personality is. So they would be considered really not clumpers like the people that we learned about last class with our different personality tests. All right, number two, the belief that personality is created by the interaction between a person, his or her behavior, and the environment is known as blank. Now, this is just a variety of terms, so we're hopefully knowing what one of these terms, we recognize it from our notes. If we just use the textbook again and we kind of go along in order, we'll notice that there are a couple of words that are bolded here. We've got social cognitive theories and reciprocal determinism. So to go back to that quiz, this was one of the options. So let's read what this is. Reciprocal determinism: the person's behavior, and the environment all influence one another in a pattern of a two-way causal link. And it's from Bandura. And it says, look at figure 13.15. If you're using the third edition, this will be 12.15. Your chapters are off a bit from this one. So this is reciprocal determinism. So again, just as it's described, this is a nice visual to help you. So all of these things sort of impact one another. All right, so that means number two is C. All right, number three, someone who fails an important exam and reacts by spending more time studying in the library and less time socializing probably has what kind of locus of control? All right, so you read about varying types of control, and hopefully whenever you're looking at these, you recognize two terms, internal and external, as types of locusts of control. So the rest of these really aren't to do with locus of control. So let's go over internal locus of control. People with an internal locus of control feel as if they are responsible for what happens to them. So you'll blame yourself if you perform poorly. Next, if you have an external locus of control, that means you generally believe that luck and other forces outside of your own control determine your destiny. So you'll probably blame people for how you're doing, maybe your friends, your parents, that kind of thing. So if you fail an important exam and you basically spend more time looking inward to try to fix something, then that's going to be your internal. So the right answer, number three, is A. Number three is A. Number four, according to Albert Bandura, self-efficacy is best described as blank. So we've got self-efficacy is a person's beliefs concerning his or her ability to perform the behaviors needed to achieve a desired outcome. If you have a high self-efficacy, you're more optimistic. If you have low self-efficacy, you really feel powerless. So this is mostly a description of how much power you feel. So that's what self-efficacy is. So whenever we look through here, we're trying to figure out how much power you have. So self-efficacy. your ability to perform the behaviors, how much power you have to do that. So we've got ourselves kind of narrowed down into two. So we've got an individual's personal beliefs regarding how capable he or she is, and then you've got an individual's beliefs about how much control he or she has over choices. Now I've reiterated the word control, but we also have capable here. So let's go back to our definition of self-efficacy: a person's beliefs concerning his or her ability to perform behaviors. So this one is going to be how capable you are, right? There we are. Now, if we said control, we'd probably go back to locus of control. So that's a really good distractor between self-efficacy and locus of control. Number 5, a person who asks of a personality test. Is a test actually measuring the personal variable that it is intended to measure? Is questioning the test's blank? All right, so the two items that you were asked to learn about in terms of personality tests today in this lesson were reliability and validity. And those are terms that you're pretty familiar with, hopefully from science class as well. So let's reiterate, let's kind of engage our prior knowledge. What is reliability? So let's remember, it's the consistency of measurement. And validity, what is that? It's that a test measures what it's intended to measure. Really, another word for validity would be accuracy. So this looks like accuracy, right? Is it actually measuring what I'm intending to measure? This looks like validity. And if it were reliability, consistency of measurements, do I get the same results every time? That kind of thing. All right, number 6. Which of the following is an example of a projective test consisting of a set of pictures which people are asked to tell a story? All right, so you've learned a bunch of different projective tests, or learned about a bunch of projective tests. The two that you were asked to learn about are these two, D and B. The Rorschach and the TAT. What do those two things stand for? The Rorschach tests, and you guys are probably pretty familiar with these in terms of like what you might visualize what those are. The Rorschach tests are often referred to as the ink blot tests. So if we do images right here. So projective tests in general, they present people with an ambiguous stimuli and they ask for some interpretation. So you could think that this is two bats kissing. You could think that this is a butterfly. And then the psychologist is basically trying to analyze, what does that mean about your psyche? What does that mean about what's going on in your personality? So that's one type of projective test. The other, the TAT, or thematic apperception test, that's different. And that is consisting of a series of pictures derived from paintings and drawings. You guys can see some of them over here, and you do the same idea. So you look at the image, you complete the story. I'll be asking you to do this in class today. So where are we going here? Which of the following is an example of a projective test consisting of a set of pictures which people are asked to tell a story? So if it's a set of pictures you're trying to tell a story, that's going to be the TAT. So you're trying to find some theme in the story. And these would be, if I asked you which is a set of ambiguous pictures of nonsensical like shapes and forms, that would be this test. All right, number 7. Astrologers, psychics, and fortune tellers are most likely to be associated with which psychological phenomenon? All right, so whenever you look in here, you've probably seen all these are terms that we've covered before if we haven't covered them currently. The one that's actually on your this unit, the one that's actually about this unit, the only one that appears at the very end that we haven't asked a question about. So remember, that was one of the ways that you could kind of hack the system. Was there already a question about this or not? So have we already asked a question about locus of control? Yep, that's up here. Learned helplessness, that's part of locus of control and self-efficacy, so we kind of covered that. We haven't covered these right here, but of these 3, there's only one that's been assigned to this unit, and that's the Barnum effect. So to reiterate what that is, and hopefully you may, I don't know that I hope that this is true, but you may recognize Barnum, like Barnum and Bailey Circus. That's actually how this came about, this terminology. So it's called the Barnum effect because the famous circus owner, P.T. Barnum, once said, there's a sucker born every minute. And so basically psychologists took that and said that we're going to call that the Barnum effect. So, which basically means people are naturally curious about what varying personality assessments say about them. Unfortunately, this makes people susceptible to being deceived. So, research has demonstrated that people have the tendency to see themselves in vague stock descriptions of their